From deep within the undrained Republican-filled swamps of Florida, this is the Krassencast, defending what's left, with hosts Brian and Ed Krassenstein.
Welcome to Krassencast. I am Twiddledee, and I'm here with Twiddledum. So, how's it going this morning, Twiddledum?
Pretty good, Twiddledee. Just here, twiddling my thumbs.
Wow, that was really corny. Anyhow, I'm Ed Krassenstein, and I'm here with my twin brother, Brian Krassenstein, and this is Krassencast.
So how was your weekend, Ed?
Not too shabby. I was standing in line at McDonald's yesterday because, I'm trying to increase my body fat.
I mean, who isn't, right?
And some guy came up to me and he said,
"Hey, you are the guy from Krassencast, right? I recognize you by your high-pitched voice."
What did he say?
No, I'm just joking. That didn't really happen. Really, I just wanted to, give our listeners who are fans of Chapo Trap House something to kind of be entertained about.
Chapo Trap House?
That's right.
Isn't that socialist podcast that makes fun of us all the time?
All the time? I think that's going out on a limb there, Brian. But Chapo is actually a really good podcast, in my opinion.
If you are socialist.
Hey, I don't know about that. The right has gone so far right that we're probably a lot closer to Chapo than we are at Fox News, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'd say that we're probably closer to Chapo.
It's weird, though. They kind of have a love-hate relationship with us, at least judging by how they talk about us once in a while. Actually, I think it's mostly a hate relationship with a pinch of love. But, that little bit of love is all that really matters. But really, it's a good podcast, and people should listen to it, in my opinion. And they really have a cult following.
Wait, so they're a cult?
I think it would be classified as a cult, but they're a good cult, if that makes any sense. It's like they drink the Kool-Aid not because it's going to kill them, but because the Kool-Aid is just so damn good. I mean, who doesn't like Kool-Aid, right?
You had me at Kool-Aid, Ed. How do I sign up?
All right, enough with promoting Chapo Trap House. Let's talk about this episode of Krassencast. Yeah, so today we have a really, really, really special guest.
That was a lot of reallys.
I think everybody's going to be pretty excited about this because this woman, she just wrote a book a few months ago, it's now available on Amazon, about all of Trump's women.
All of them? All of the ones he sexually assaulted and harassed?
Well, at least the ones that are known about. But in reality, it's not just the ones he sexually assaulted and harassed. It's also other women who actually played a role in bringing Trump up as a human being.
I wouldn't exactly want to be known as one of them.
Yeah, right. So anyhow, our guest is a woman named Nina Burleigh, and she wrote a book titled Golden Handcuffs, The Secret History of Trump's Women.
I thought you were going to say golden showers there for a second.
So let's get started. So welcome to the show, Nina. Can you give our listeners a brief summary of your new book titled Golden Handcuffs, The Secret History of Trump's Women?
Hi, and thanks for having me on. I certainly can. So Golden Handcuffs, The Secret History of Trump's Women tells the story of Donald Trump's relationships with women and more broadly relationships with all people, really, through his mother and grandmother, his 3 wives, and his daughter Ivanka.
So I think a lot of people are interested in knowing about Trump's upbringing. You don't really hear about that too often. Can you give us a little bit of details about his mother and grandmother?
Sure. Both of them are immigrants. His grandmother came here around the turn of the 20th century and was very homesick, came from a wine-making town, tiny little village in Germany, and was brought over by Trump's grandfather, who had left earlier and made a nest egg running brothel saloons out in gold mining country in the Yukon and the Arctic. And then he went back and brought the girl next door back to the United States with him. She was very homesick. She had 3 children. And then her husband, Fred Trump, died of the Spanish flu, leaving her a young widow with 3 children and a small nest egg. And she used that nest egg to create the Trump Organization. She incorporated and started a company that would borrow money, build, sell, borrow, build, and sell, which is the business model that her son Fred carried on to make an empire, really. So that's his grandmother. She was stern. She was thrifty. She missed Germany. She was a German speaker most of her life. And then his mother came from a Scottish fishing family, Scottish island in the Outer Hebrides, grew up in muck boots, the 10th child of a fishing family, very poor, 8th grade education probably, and came here when she was 17 or 18 after following some of her older sisters. And in those days, the great families of New York liked to have butlers and nannies from the British Isles. So her sisters were already involved in this, and Trump's mother arrives in New York, and her first address in New York was as a maid at the bottom of a list of a retinue of 20 servants working in the Carnegie Mansion.
Oh, wow.
Donald likes to say that she came here on holiday. That's absolutely not true.
Why do you think he says that?
Well, he says that because he has inherited, I think, from his mother, a craving for the royal. See, his mother developed this after spending a year in the Carnegie household. She learned that that's how great houses look, and American luxury, and it's the closest thing you can find to a castle. Really, this house. It's still here in New York in the upper 90s, and he inherited from her that craving, that yearning for class and luxury. And of course, he didn't have it.
Golden toilets.
And golden toilets and, the Versailles triplex, the gilded tea that he puts on everything. And of course, the word classy, which was really, the word to me is sort of synonymous with pre-President Trumpism. I mean, if you were in New York during the 80s and 90s, that's a word that you would hear him say a lot. It's classy.
So where and how do you think Trump got this primal fear of the female biology? And how do you think he deals with it?
Well, as I say in my book, it starts with Fred Trump, his dad, who had decreed that in the family home, the word pregnant would not be used, even though his wife had 5 children. And it probably goes all the way back to the grandmother. These were not terribly unusual attitudes about women's bodies in, around the, early 20th century, especially if you came from a German village. So, but these are primal, this is a sort of a primal revulsion, and you see it in Donald in, his ideal woman is kind of this archaic Vegas showgirl, plastic fantastic female. And in, the most successful marriage that he had was with Ivana, the first wife. And when he was divorcing her, he said to Liz Smith, one of the gossip columnists that he liked to talk to here in New York, he said, "I can't have sex with a woman who's had children." And then, of course, you see with Melania, the year that he went off with Stormy Daniels and the Playboy Bunny is the postpartum year. It's the year after Melania had their son. So these are ways that it plays out. And of course, you do see him putting himself in a position of sort of being an arbiter of the feminine ideal, with owning the pageant and owning the model agencies. And again, those are enterprises that really try to groom women into this sort of plastic fantastic ideal that he has for women, and that basically all the women around him participate in.
So your book talks about how Trump's cheated on all of his wives. What do you think's going through Melania's head? How can she be okay with having a husband who is a proven cheater?
Sure. Well, you have to think about her childhood. I mean, I went to Slovenia. I went to her town, her hometown, this tiny little shoe factory town, and her parents were factory workers, and I guess her dad was a chauffeur. In the 70s, the country of Slovenia is still behind the Iron Curtain. And like Ivana, like his first wife, also same exact personality in this one sense. They both grew up behind the Iron Curtain, looking across at the luxuries of the branded West. They didn't even have Coca-Cola. That was like a special treat if they had a Coke in the 70s. But more than that, the the luxuries of capitalism. And when you're deprived of those things and you think that that's something that's available to this whole other side of the planet that you don't have access to, for these particular women, it's been a lifelong desire. And for Ivana, who was a collectivist, educated, Russian-speaking Soviet, comes over here and she has become sort of a paragon of capitalism and branding and a mini Trump, a mini Donald, really. But with Melania, and this is a long way of getting to answering your question, Melania just wanted those luxuries and that security. She had no interest. I mean, here in New York, she wasn't somebody who was sort of climbing the social ranks or trying to be part of the New York philanthropic circuit or a social X-ray. She really hunkered down after the marriage and after she had that child with her Slovenian family, the small family that had come, the parents and the sister had come over here, and they were living in Trump buildings or part-time living in Trump buildings, in apartments. I think one of them was in Trump Tower, and she spent all her time in this little Slovenian bubble. And that's why when they first trotted her out, in the campaign, they made her speak exactly 3 times. And she couldn't speak English very well. She's improved now, but she couldn't speak English very well because she wasn't this person who went out and about and was trying to amass friends or power or status. She just liked luxury and she liked security, and that's what she wanted. And I think that, so if that's what you want and you get yourself a Trump, all of the other things that go along with being with him are secondary, including running off with a porn star. Although, you don't want to be humiliated in front of the world that he paid hush money over it. But I don't think that his dalliances were an issue for her.
I can't imagine anything attractive about Donald Trump other than his money.
Right. Well, here you're getting at something else about these women, which I think is important and interesting. I opened the book talking to a source that I had here in New York who was part of their circle, a great beauty. One of these women, like Melania, who had been noticed by somebody very rich and had been married to, and she knew them. And we're in a restaurant, and she was communicating with me on paper, not talking. Everything was written down, and she was scratching out everything she wrote and then taking all the paper and putting it in her purse and taking it out with her. These women, because they are the sort of holders of ugly secrets about these wealthy men, are in a kind of a precarious position, especially with Donald, who's, as you can see with what was going on with Michael Cohen and that Matt Gaetz tweet this week. Donald Trump's relationships with not just women, but men too, really all involve emotional blackmail or threats of blackmail, implied threats of blackmail, and then, of course, financial insecurity. And so these women holding the ugly secret of, and it could be something just as simple as what you've just said, ooh, Donald, she knows what he looks like in his underwear. She knows what he looks like without his spray tan, right? She knows how he gets his hair to look like that. And those secrets are just the very beginning, the very tip of the iceberg of what she knows about him. So that is a power that she has over him, but it's also...
Do you think she still sees him in his underwear, though?
Well, she certainly has, right, at least once, or they wouldn't have that kid.
That's a good point. So what about their relationship? Do you think it's going to last, once Trump's out of the White House?
Boy, I do think that he's the goose that laid the golden egg for her. Like, she's not going to walk away from that. I don't think so. Now, of course, what if ends up in jail or something? I don't know. I think she sticks with him. I think that, people who say, she's like us, she's a progressive, potentially somebody who could be on our feminist side of share attitudes towards Trump that progressive women do, are completely wrong. I think she's much more in the role of like Elena Ceausescu, like somebody who would really just be perfectly fine with a autocrat and also getting the benefits of that autocracy. That's the culture that she comes out of.
How about from his end? Do you think he would stay with her?
Sure, why not? She's his supermodel.
You don't think that maybe just like every other wife that he had, he might think he's upgrading?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he needs to upgrade from this one. I think that she's just exactly what he wants. the problems with the others were Ivana wanted to be a working woman. He didn't like that, and Marla rebelled against the Trump branding that was going on. She didn't want to be part of it, and was resisting it in a way. And of course, that was actually the point in where he realized, I think, that he likes to brand women. He's sort of a Pygmalion. He wants the unformed, and that's why Melania, who's not this, and Ivana and Marla, they're not New York sophisticates. They're not chic, American New York women. They're women who come from another culture, or in two cases, other country. And when they encounter him, they're like, oh yeah, he's the BMOC. He's the coolest guy I've ever seen. He is the image of an American, billionaire. And only after they're like deep in it, does it sort of dawn on them that, oh no, actually he's an oaf by American standards and not what we thought he was. So it's kind of Bluebeard's cave.
So in your book, you also touch on the fact that Donald and Melania lied about when they first met. Can you go into a little more detail on that?
Sure. So, the story that they tell, and that Paolo Zampoli, who was Melania's model agent, is that they met at the Kit Kat Club at a party for a Victoria's Secret model, and in 1998, and that he was there with another woman, and that Melania was alone, and that he wanted her number, and it was a sort of a meet cute, and she refused, but took his number and then called him later. But if you'll recall, she arrives in the United States in like around 95, right? I can't remember exactly because I have the book in front of me, but she arrives in 95, and around the end of that year, early 96, is when she poses for the infamous lesbian softcore nude porny looking photographs that were leaked to the New York Post.
Yeah, I think that's floating around Twitter and the internet.
Well, they were leaked to the New York Post, those pictures. They weren't just on the, they weren't just on the internet. They were on the cover of the New York Post during the campaign, right? Which some people suspect that even Donald might have leaked them himself. But because it leads into a part of her life that maybe people, they knew that somebody was going to go and find them. But the photographer for that shoot, Ali de Basseville, French guy, is on the record backing with 100% backing that he and everyone at that shoot knew, because she told them that her boyfriend was Donald Trump. And he remembers it specifically because he thought that it would increase the value of his photo shoot to this French magazine that was going to print them. And he wanted to tell the editor, this is Donald's girlfriend. And it was 96. And he says that Paolo Zampoli said to him, you can't do that because he's still not untethered from his wife, Marla.
So where did they meet?
Well, I don't know where they met. And that is, how do we know where they met? In Melania's life story, Paolo Zampoli supposedly found her on the runway in Milan and brought her over here in 95. But in between the years that she left Slovenia around 92. And between 92 and 95 or so, it's not really clear what she was doing. The Slovenian documentary filmmakers who did a massive search for photos of her modeling in those years couldn't find anything. My photo researcher found one interesting shot in this kind of like heroin chic outfit and makeup with dark circles under her eyes. It's an amazing picture, actually. But there isn't a whole lot. And that, whether that means that they've taken them down, or whether that means she was a struggling, not getting work model, it's not clear. But I'll tell you one thing that they don't like, that Ollie de Basseville says that about them meeting early. They went after the Telegraph newspaper.
Why don't they like it?
I think they don't like because they don't really want people looking into her history. The official story is she was this great model and she met him and, she was on her way to stardom. And he likes to call her his supermodel. Everybody knows that she was not anything close to a supermodel when he first hooked up with her, even in 1998. And after that, all of the pictures, she did start to get the.
So he basically made her as having the name he has. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, of course, because I mean that's what he does with women. After once he got the beauty pageants and the modeling agencies, I mean he became this sort of professional. First of all, professional arbiter of female hotness, which he was doing his shtick on Howard Stern's show and everywhere else anywhere would listen to him about what is a hot woman. And then secondly, he liked to help women. The way he shows his love, if that's what you want to call it, is by branding women into this sort of commodified, branded feminine ideal that he's been behind for decades.
So, okay, so let's move on from Melania to another woman in Trump's life. On media and social media, there's a lot of talk about Trump having some kind of weird attraction to his daughter, Ivanka. What's your take on that relationship?
My take on the Donald-Ivanka relationship is that the highest praise that he can give a woman is, "You're so hot, baby." That's how he looks at most women. And Ivanka, his daughter, is, his greatest creation in his view. She is a sort of narcissistic extension of himself. And I think that when he says things like, "Oh, baby, my daughter's so hot, but wouldn't you want to be dating her?" I think he's just sort of carrying on in that vein because he thinks of her as his greatest creation. I don't necessarily think I see what people see in those photographs of her on his lap when she's 13 and so on. But I think there's a section that she is definitely sexualized, but that's because that's what Trump does to women.
Okay, so it's not like some sort of fetish you think he has then?
I don't think so. I mean, who knows, really? I'm not, and I don't, in my book, I say I don't actually know who he's having sex with or what that's all about. But I don't think that that's probably what's going on.
Is it true that he sent her back for a second breast enhancement?
Well, that's what I was told.
So what was the reasoning for that?
Well, supposedly, she went to get one and then he spotted her, Mar-a-Lago on the chaise lounge and said, "They're not big enough." And she went back. She certainly has had some kind of enhancement. Many small changes to the face as well, which you can see. Yeah, there's a lot of plastic there.
Yeah, I've seen that too. What do you think's ahead for Ivanka in the Trump world if she doesn't go to jail, that is?
That's right. Yeah, that's a good question. That's a big if because she was in these deals in Baku and the Moscow deal and Soho Hotel and Panama. She was involved. She was there. She was at the table. And one of my sources is a money laundering expert, told me when she was in the room at a deal table, these guys, whether they be the Mamajovs of Azerbaijan or the fugitive money launderer dude down in Panama, or any of these other sort of sketchy characters, these people looked at her and what they saw was, "I'm Donald Trump and I approve of this." So she was not sort of accidentally there just having fun. She was really a participant, not just putting the spa by Ivanka on these developments, but really participating in the deals. And so that is a big if. Now, if she does
So she basically said that she's Donald Trump. Is that what you said?
No, I'm not saying she said that. I'm saying that this source was describing what was going on in those rooms, said with these guys who were doing the deals with Trump, when they looked at her, if he's not there, he's not physically in Baku, they send her. She is the surrogate for Donald in all of these deals. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So she can't be separated from them. And that is why Giuliani went on the warpath when, there was some suggestion that Ivanka might get hauled in and said, that's the red line.
What do you think Donald Trump's reaction would be if, say, she's indicted?
Well, I think he would go ballistic. Now, do I think that he would let her be thrown under the bus? I don't know. People say, "Oh, he'll even let his kids go under the bus and to save his own skin." But I don't know. I honestly don't know. All I know is that I think if she's super strategic, she's to the manner born. She is the apotheosis of the Trump brand. She went to all the right schools. She is a Manhattan wealthy sophisticate, and I think that she is the future of the Trump brand if it survives. I think it's female. I think that the Republicans would love to have somebody like that as a candidate. I think that she's strategic. She is in that position at the White House, able to get the home numbers and, glad hand with all of the world leaders, right? She probably has Merkel on the line. She can get people on the line, and that Rolodex will serve her well going forward.
Do you feel that Donald holds her to a higher standard than, say, Don Jr. or Eric?
No, I don't think he holds her to a higher standard. He may hold Donald Jr. to a higher standard. I don't know. What I'm told is that Eric is the smart one. That SNL gets it totally wrong. It's Donald. It's Jr.
Maybe I should have reworded that. Do you think he sees her in a more positive light, or puts more, weight behind her opinion?
Yes, I think he does.
I asked you before how Trump would react if she was indicted. How do you think she would react if she was indicted and asked to rat out her father?
That's a tricky one. This is complete and utter speculation, but I think Ivanka is must be traumatized at a certain level from her childhood with him, because not incest, as we're trying to suss that out, not that, but just because she grew up in this world with this maelstrom of chaos and publicity and paparazzi screaming at her, asking her about her father's sex life when she was 8 years old. She's buried all that deep inside her. She apes her father, and she mimics her father's genius for branding, which she thinks he is a genius. She's on record in her first book, talking about how perception is more important than reality. And if people think something's true and it's not, maybe you shouldn't correct them. I mean, it's pure Trumpism. So she's inherited from him what she is as an adult, but she also has deep inside her this trauma, must have it. And I don't know if given the opportunity and whether she would, I really don't know. I think that's a really good question, and I can't answer it.
Do you think Donald Trump has ever raped a woman?
Well, Ivana Trump is on record. All I can go by is the deposition.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. How about outside of his marriages?
Well, I interviewed a lot of people who operated in that modelizer circle of rich guys and really young models who were, he was hosting parties for them at the plaza when he owned it. And I was told he was partaking of very young models, as one of the sources said, as a sexual snack. They were sexual snacks for him. But does that mean that he was raping? Well, the 19 accusations against him include, for example, my friend and former colleague Natasha Stoynoff, a reporter, who says that he pounced on her, right? Melania left the room and he took her to this ballroom or something in Mar-a-Lago, slammed the door shut and had his tongue down her throat in a minute. And those are the types of allegations that you hear, like he was jumping, he was grabbing. So does that mean that he can rape? I don't know, but it's obviously the boundaries, the female body, are not something that he regards as inviolable.
So there's this story, I'm sure you've heard about it, about the doorman at Trump Tower who says he's paid $30,000 to sign over the rights of a story that Trump had a love child with a housekeeper at Trump Tower. And recently in the House Oversight Committee testimony, Michael Cohen actually said that he doesn't believe the story is true. Do you believe the story is true?
I think that he might have love children. I mean, I see no reason why he wouldn't have, because of his career as a seducer and an aggressive seducer of women. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that there are little Trumps running around.
That's a scary thought, but I guess there are already some of them.
Like the boys from Brazil. I'm kidding.
So going back to that, what do you think the likelihood would be that he would pay to have an abortion?
Well, again, you hear rumors about that, right? Because he wasn't anti-abortion before.
Yeah, exactly.
And in fact, all I can say about that is when he was talking to Howard Stern about Marla telling him that she was pregnant. Of course, he wasn't married, remember, to Marla. She got pregnant 3 or 4 months before they actually got married. She gave birth 3 or 4 months before they got married. So They weren't married. And he said something like, well, what are we going to do about it? And I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the quote in front of me, but that statement has always been taken as him suggesting, can you get rid of this problem for me? But of course, he says that's not what he meant. Beyond that, I don't know. I mean, rumors are rife, but it's nothing can be. I have no evidence that he's done so.
Sure. So one other thing before we close this out. Also, in his committee testimony, Michael Cohen touched on the allegations that there's a tape that exists with Trump hitting Melania, and he said he doesn't believe it exists.
The elevator tape, right? And we all of us in Trump land in New York who cover or paying attention to all of the Trumpiana and the arcana that go along with watching Trump and his history. All of us have heard about that tape. The story is that there was a catch and kill. And I think there probably was a catch and kill. I think it's even been reported there was a catch and kill of some video, but we don't know what that video was. It was a very successful catch and kill. Somebody's very rich and not talking, and some very rich person has whatever that is, and we don't know what it is. So I can only say that if Michael Cohen may or may not know what it is. I presume he does. But that kind of allegation is so inflammatory, or that he's participated in domestic violence against Melania, assaulted his wife. I mean, that is a big deal, and you can't go there without documented evidence. I wouldn't.
All right. Well, thanks. So it's been a pleasure having you on Krassencast. If our listeners want to get your book, where can they get it?
Well, Golden Handcuffs can be found on Amazon and at all of your independent bookstores online. If you can't find it, reach me on Twitter at Nina Burleigh, and I will help you find one because I think it's a fun read. My friends tell me, my writer friends who know, tell me they miss their subway stops reading it. So I know I got the right tone, and I think it's got a lot of information in it and a point of view that people will enjoy.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on, and maybe we can have you on again in the future.
I'd love that. Thank you so much.
So now it's time for a segment we call
Unhinged Attacks.
Every week, Ed and I highlight unhinged attacks that are directed towards us because of our tweets towards Trump. So this week, we have a special edition about QAnon. Now, most of you have probably heard of QAnon. It's basically an anonymous individual or group of individuals, we don't know because they're anonymous, who claims that there's this elaborate deep state conspiracy against President Trump. Q, as the group refers to themselves, post almost daily on a website called 8chan, which is a message board that is totally anonymous. And Q actually started posting on 4chan, which is another anonymous message board.
Are these websites related to each other?
They're very similar. And this all started in October of 2017, and it's really spiraled out of control since. Basically, Q is a deranged conspiracy cult, I'd say. And what they're trying to do is convince the public, particularly Trump supporters, that Trump has a plan and eventually is going to prevail over the so-called deep state. Well, last week, the official Q account on 8chan dropped a message referring to both Ed and I. This was message number 2884.
I kind of actually feel special that they're targeting us.
I kind of agree, but it's kind of scary because these people are deranged. Q's post number 2884 read as follows.
Wait, what's 2884 mean?
It's just the 2884th post since they began.
Okay.
It read as follows. Nothing to see here. You are news now. And then it linked to a tweet made by an individual. This tweet has since been deleted after Twitter got wind of it, I guess. And the tweet was an embedded video of Ed and I where I'm saying the higher ups pay us to tweet and sow division.
Yeah, so that was a joke.
Yeah, so this was actually a parody video that we created. It was actually for this podcast.
Yeah, we were going to actually promote the podcast with a video. And in the video that we made, I'm actually interviewing Brian. I'm talking in a really corny voice. I'm like,
Hey guys, is it true that you guys are paid to tweet?
Yeah, and I'm drinking a cup of water that looks like scotch that I put food coloring in because I didn't want to be drunk on this highly important parody video.
But as the video goes, the full version, Brian actually says, "No, I'm just joking," or something along the lines.
Okay.
Of that.
So let me cut in here. Along with the video, this tweet that this individual posted, that Q posted, said the Krassenstein brothers are on video admitting they're spreading misinformation and being paid to divide Americans. Evil people paying evil people to do evil deeds.
Wow.
First of all, like we said, the video is edited. It was filmed in my house, actually. We aren't actually paid to tweet, but I mean, if we were, is that really that horrendous of a thing? What if we were paid to tweet?
Well, and let me clarify. When Brian says the video was edited, all he means is it was cut and they didn't show the end of it. It's not like we're claiming that they edited it. The full video is actually available on our Krassencast YouTube channel.
Yeah, so the real video, the real unedited video began circulating after Q looked like an idiot. Wait, let me rephrase that. Q looked like an even bigger idiot, as they clearly didn't realize that this video was a proven hoax that was proven a hoax, I think maybe like 6 months ago or something. Perhaps if you're going to push a conspiracy theory, you should do your research first. But remember, this is Q, and they're not the smartest, most intelligent people on the internet.
I guess Q doesn't know how to use Google yet.
Yeah, right. So this isn't the end of it. After this Q post, it actually continued. After we received numerous threats and attacks by these crazy Q followers, I guess you could call them, who were way too stupid to actually use Google to find the actual video, Q released another post. I think it was maybe like 36 hours later, and I think they were trying to kind of make up for this unfactual video that they posted.
Fake news.
So the new post read, "You are on the right track. X video clip. Pay to shill. K-bros. K-bros, that's us, I assume. Think context. Think bigger picture. Think connections. Define map. The truth can always be found."
What the hell does that mean?
Well, exactly. So basically, what Q does is they throw out a bunch of ambiguous words and phrases so that when anything happens, they can basically say, "See, I told you so." Like for instance, if I'm eating a cheeseburger on the next Periscope video we do, and I'm happening to be sitting in front of a really large picture, a really big picture, Q supporters can then say, "Oh my God, Q got it right. Remember, he said, think bigger picture, and the Krassensteins are sitting in front of a really, really big picture. Holy crap, Q is real."
Or if I ask for directions on Twitter, they'll say, "See, I said define map."
Exactly. So what they do is they throw out all these ambiguous words and phrases and all kinds of the confusion. And then no matter what happens the next day or two, I'm sure one of those words are going to pop up. I mean,
We should do that. We should go on Twitter and we should start tweeting this stuff. That'll be really good.
that might be a good idea. I like that one. But anyway, like for instance, they could tweet something like, "Red trees fall, day 10, watch the connections." And then maybe a hurricane will come 10 days later and hit the red state of Texas, and obviously trees would fall over. And then Q supporters can say, "Wow, Q called it. Q knew that a hurricane was going to come and hit the red state of Texas. They said red trees fall on day 10. And then there must be a connection here. What's the connection? Trump fired his Secretary of State on day 10 too. He must have fired him because of the hurricane."
Because Q knows everything.
Yeah, so that's really it here. This is the unhinged attack coming from these really, really unhinged individuals. And I don't know what their end game is here, but I don't really think it matters. I think we should start talking about other things that do matter.
Okay, so why don't we move on to our next segment?
Did Trump say it?
So every few episodes, we have this special segment called Did Trump Say It? And I will basically provide Brian with a statement, and he has to tell me whether Trump said it or not. You
I'm ready.
Okay, let's go. First statement. Lindsay Lohan is probably deeply troubled and therefore great in bed.
You know, I kind of remember him talking about Lindsay Lohan or hearing a clip of this. So I'm gonna say he did say this, and I'm gonna bet that he said it on Howard Stern.
Actually, you're right, and he did say it in Howard Stern. Can you guess the year?
2006.
2004. Good job, Brian. All right, ready for the next one?
Ready.
Women are like a glass of fine wine. Once you drink it, you want more.
It sounds like something he could say, but I'm going to say Trump probably never drank a glass of fine wine in his life. I know he doesn't actually drink alcohol. I think he's more of a apple juice drinker. So I'm going to say no.
Apple juice and cheeseburgers, you're right. And Trump did not say that. So that is the end of Did Trump Say It? So before we go, I'd like to ask everyone to do us a favor. Please leave us a review on iTunes if you use an Apple device. Please subscribe to our iTunes channel, and please subscribe to us on YouTube. Just search for Krassencast. Also, if you want to be really, really special to us, you can support us on Patreon. You can get there by just going to Krassencast.com, and we would be forever grateful. Any closing things you want to say, Brian?
No, I just want to thank everybody for making Krassencast the #1 podcast on all of Apple. That's co-hosted by two twin brothers who tweet a lot and are against Trump.
Are you sure there's no other twins on Twitter who tweet a lot and have podcasts?
It's not as good as this podcast.
All right. Talk to you guys later.